Hey, welcome back to the table. So, was able to post last night, and thankfully with the world being round, sorry to all you flat earthers out there, it is round. And while I slept, many folks were awake and they were able to answer. Apparently, Rome does score a ton of points. And so the whole idea here is that the empires that are in place, it's like we suspected in the last video, they are going to score a lot of points, and it's up to the barbarians and the other players to ruin that for them. Now, the only thing that wasn't fully answered is, for example, the card says every turn, income of each non-heretical Roman province, they get 2 victory points, which, by the way, I confirmed is true. They do get 2. The non-heretical Roman provinces, and it says income. So my thoughts is you score those points during the income step. That's the problem with this. This doesn't say when you score these points. It's sort of like as it happens. Well, this is income, so we would score that during the income step. And why is that important? Obviously, the game map changes as the turn goes on, and that's the first thing. And the second thing is, for video purposes, I have to pick a spot with the ambiguity of not knowing. And then thirdly, this is just from a gameplay fun perspective. Calculating income sucks. It's like the least desirable thing in this game. I'm not enjoying that part of this game. It's a very tedium. It has a lot of tedium to it. So with that said, I don't want to calculate income twice a turn. I want to calculate it once and then just score the points. So this is real easy to fix. And then also, in light of the fact that they're going to be scoring crap tons of points, I am going to start implementing some 18xx ideas to this game. And so what I did is over here, and it's too far away because I have to stand up just to even get over to this part of my table. Over here I have points. So this is the, in fact, I'm going to take the Kosani and just pull it back. This is the Byzantines. I'm going to pull that back, and we're going to scooch this over to there, and then scooch this over to there. And yes, as you may have noticed, I am putting in, we're going to start using poker chips to count our points. The whole Indian hashtag thing is not going to cut the mustard. So poker chips are going to do the deal. And the way I decided to do it was, these are the minor kingdoms. They're mostly on the board. They hardly have any tokens. So the red one is going to score the red points. This, of course, being the green points, the blue points, and the yellow. And I'm just trying to stagger them so they don't get confused for each other. And so we got to fix the income points. So here you can see the Romans made $67, minus 1 for the caravan. So it was 66, but it's non-heretical. And so, as you may recall, there were 2 heretical provinces, this one, and up there in Britannia. So I have to remove that income. So, for example, Africa is 3. And then up here in Britannia, it's looking like 1. So that's $4 more taken off. So 67 minus 4 is 63, minus the caravan is 62. So they got 62 during the income phase. And I'm going to just put the Kasani down like this. So 62 times 2 is 124. So I'm going to just take 125 points, and we're going to give it to them. And then take $1 back. So that's how I'm going to do this. And by moving those like I did, I think these are easier to reach. Yes, they are. Okay, and then the Byzantines, as you saw, have a similar situation. They have 70 income. The caravan is 1, so it's 69, but they don't get to multiply by 2. So 50, 60, 70 more points. I mean, the red team is just going bonkers with the points here. So 10, 20, 30, 40. I mean, there's easily over 200 points there for red. So as someone on Board Game Geek pointed out, your time is limited. There's theoretically 12 turns in a game, and the red player is not going to score like this all 12 turns. I tend to agree, but at the same time, we're almost done with turn 1, and I think red's going to score this again for turn 2. So that's not to say that points won't be scored later. They will, you know, by the other sides. But yeah, it's a very interesting concept. Sorry, just having some coffee here. So we're going to now dive into Persia, which is really one of the hardest ones for me to play as, because you know, I just got finished putting my mind around playing as the red player. Now I got to switch gears and be the opposite side, and it's hard. It's really, this is the hard part about schizophrenic solitaire like this. It's partly why I don't particularly enjoy it. And so from what we did last time is I think we took the Armenians down and tried to get them to vassalize. And then of course the Byzantines were going to just take the Armenians right back. It was, I think, exactly how the last playthrough played out. It works. Taking the Armenians down does work. It gets you some tributary points, but taking the Armenians right back, of course, is not very hard for the Byzantines to do. So then the question becomes, can we just take each other on head on? And that is a nice little option. And the Byzantines, I'm sorry, the Persians, let's look at their victory points. How do they score the points? Because obviously taking out the Armenians is not it. So here we can see every Roman, Byzantine, pillagers, or barbarian unit eliminated, they get a victory point. They lose 2 for every looting marker. So they actually have a looting marker. Well, they have a raid marker on them, not a looting marker. So not quite lose 2 points yet. They get 20 victory points for attacking Byzantine or Rome with at least 10 units. Now, I don't even know how that's possible because you have stacking limits. The stacking limit is 4, so how do you get up to 10? I don't know, but you get 20 victory points if you can do it. So that's an interesting one. And they don't really score until turn 3 for Egypt, Phoenicia, Syria, Armenia, Armenia Minor, Osrine, Palestine. They basically want the Middle East and get down into Africa a bit. And then if they can get all of Oriens, they get an extra 15. So basically they want where the majority of the Byzantines are. So I think that's what we should try to do. And then here, I don't know what the VP bonus of 20 for Empire means. In fact, I don't see that written. So let's look at their player aid. Maybe it's in the player aid, and that's the next thing we need to go to. So first things first is this is a little more detailed. Like here you can see there's a -5 every time the capital is looted. That wasn't on the nation card. So there's already a difference. And you'll find this throughout the entire game where there's these inconsistencies, and it's a little annoying. But let's talk about this and see what they have in their events, and maybe that'll help us to understand what that other stuff was saying. Persia receives 2 extra income. Yep, we know about that. And obviously, if we play with that expansion, we ignore it. For checking for the Persian Empire, they get an extra D10 modifier for every client state. So this is where having Armenia submit to them actually does help for them becoming an empire. However, it makes they're going to be age 3 instead of 1. That's an interesting one. Here you can see they do have 41 income, and then the treasury is adjusted according to age, and they are age 4, so there would have been no change, but I didn't realize that they had that penalty as well. These penalties stink, by the way. The elephants start on turn 2. At least 1 unit must be left as garrison to control each Byzantine province. Control of Asia, Cappadocia, or Orient areas do not grant Persia control of those empty provinces. Okay, the developer posted on Board Game Geek last night new rules for area control. One of them, and I apologize I'm interrupting this, but one of them is remember we tried to retake that city up there, and we said we couldn't. The Romans control the area, and the moment we made the Visigoths retreat, we control this city. We didn't even have to siege that city at all. Any province that is neutral, meaning that there's no military presence, belongs to whoever controls the area. That was a rule released last night on Board Game Geek. It is a good rule. I do think it simplifies things. It eliminates all of the craziness of, okay, what do I do if I lose a city and then I come back? So if you take a city, but you don't control the area, you need to keep troops in that city, or otherwise you lose the control. The control goes back to whoever is the area owner. So okay, back to this. Persia has 6, satraps, I have no idea. They may attack inside Mesopotamia and Persis only. They are automatically redeployed. If this is somehow captured on turn 1, there's a special peace that can be imposed on Persia from the Byzantines. I honestly don't know how that's possible, but I guess it is. If a Persian-controlled province in Mesopotamia or Persis is entered by an enemy, they automatically get 1 free unit of their choice. Again, elite units are received damaged, blah, blah, blah. And then if they ever lose Ctesiphon, it receives an in decline marker and loses 5 victory points. The capital may be moved back at no cost, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not seeing anything talking about that particular scoring condition. And then there's a possibility for Islam at the end of the game. We'll worry about that later. So, yeah, there's nothing in here to even talk about what's on attacking Byzantine or Rome with 10 or more units, or what does the VP bonus of 20, 20 for Empire. They're not an empire yet, so I'm assuming that when they become an empire, they'll get 20 victory points. That's going to be my takeaway there. The rest of this, yeah, with stacking limits, I don't know how they're ever going to attack something with 10 units. If anybody has any suggestions, maybe some of their leaders will have huge... let's look at their leaders real quick. This one doesn't have any. 1, 1, 1. This one has a 2, right? So if your stacking limit is 4, he can make it 6. Oh, that one has a 3. So that wouldn't be a 7. That's still nowhere near 10, folks. I have no idea where the 10's coming from. You would need like a +6. And I just don't, it's not even possible. So that would be a worthy question on Board Game Geek, is how do you get 10 units to to join in on an attack. And of course, the stacking limit rule has been challenged on Board Game Geek, and it's been debated and deliberated a lot. Let's look at the stacking. I'm sorry, we're not getting really deep into their yeah, so right here. Stacking inside a province for units of the active nation. Max 4 in all terrain, plus the leader stacking bonus, plus 1 for invasion. That's it. Nations move 1 stack at a time. Units must stop when they enter terrain of a hostile nation, blah, blah, blah. Moving stack of 6 or more units eliminates the unit. And in fact, that's what triggered a lot of the Board Game Geek discussion, is people were thinking, boy, it's impossible to get 6 or more units in a stack. Which this is saying you need to get 10. Yeah, I don't see how that's possible to attack them with 10 units, but we'll play it out and go from there. So they do get a small bonus towards becoming an empire if they were to take like the Armenians. So what I'm going to do is we're going to move these 2 stacks, of course. I'm very fearful that we're going to run into big time trouble attacking the Byzantines because of the heavy cavalry and all that stuff, but we're going to try it. And then I'm going to take this stack here and try to attack this, excuse me, that empty province there. The Byzantines have that unit from that kingdom basically on loan because that kingdom is paying tribute. We could, for example, try to submit the Armenians first, which would then cause this to disappear for them. And then, so for example, their leader here has 2 campaigns. You can see on the bottom right, he has a 2. So he can do 2 campaigns. And so we could try to attack this big stack as part of the campaigns. So he basically gets 3 attacks, that particular leader. So I think, yeah, let's try to take out the Armenians first. So this stack here is going to come up and try to conquer the Armenian capital. And the kingdom, they're inactive, they don't move, but they will intercept. So this unit would move over to intercept that. And then this guy is going to just go ahead and try to straight up attack here. And yeah, let's see how this plays out. And remember, if there's a satraps or whatever it's called, they can't actually move. Now they do have this, the Persians do. They can recruit 1 unit from a barbarian nation whose horde is adjacent to one of their areas. There is no barbarian next to them, so this is not very helpful. It'll give them a buck at the end of the game, end of the turn, I guess. But let's resolve the Armenian battle first. So what you have is that situation for the Armenians. They do have a fortified city. And then for Persis here, right there is, this is one of the satraps we were talking about. So I'm not sure I can bring him along. All right, so now I got to go study for those hash marks that are impossible to see. Okay, Persis has a line here. It looks like it goes along the river. And then Mesopotamia comes up, and it might go through these mountains here. I think these mountains are the line, so this guy has to stay behind. He can't cross into the Caucasus to attack Armenia. That makes sense. Okay, so this is our situation. We do have a barbarian unit with us. He has the mountain symbol, and we are going to have to deal with an archery phase, which we haven't done yet. But basically, you can see here that for the archers, they get +1 for every archer unit, -2 if the defender has heavy advantage, and +1 or 2 if you have Frankish infantry, which they don't. And then if it's an ambush, +1 or 2 for each other unit. I would need to look up what that means. Of course, with this being advanced rules, so slightly different. Okay, so there's an infantry round. First thing you do is you check to see if there's a mountain ambush. It is taking place in mountain terrain, but it doesn't happen if the leader has the mountain symbol. There is no leader in this one, so it would happen. And it's automatic if the attacker crossed a ridge or a river, which they did. They crossed a ridge. So the ambush is automatic. Otherwise, you would have to do a D2 check. So the attacker and defender roll dice. Unless it's an ambush, both are simultaneous. Now, what's crazy is these guys have the mountain terrain, but there's no archer, so they don't actually attack. These guys are the ones that are going to attack. So the ambush doesn't really happen, although they had everything in place to do an ambush if they actually had an archer. So what it's saying is you get +1 per archer, +1.5 if you have a horse archer in clear steppe or desert. Okay, so the table on the player aid not as good as this one, the real rules. +1.5 per Frankish infantry, and then -2 if the opponent has a heavy advantage. And that's really it. I think it says that if there's an ambush, each mountaineer counts as 2 units. Ah. And they get +1/2 per other infantry that's not a Frankish to their die roll. So in this case, since there's no archers, there's no actual and I'm just trying to look at the so for example, this table right here doesn't exist in the player aids that I printed out. The player aids that I printed out is using this bigger table here, which oh no, I apologize. It is the smaller table. So that part is correct. The bigger table is not. So the only other rule with this archery phase is the first unit that's eliminated must be a national unit. And it's not just for archery, it's for all battles. And of course the barbarian horde is hit last. And if one or both sides are completely eliminated, leader elimination has to be checked. Okay, so this is very interesting here. Yes, this is heavy. So they're going to be able to apply a -2 to the die roll for these guys. And then for every archer, so you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 archers. So I'm going to get +5 to my dice. That's a lot, in fact. But the most you're going to get to do is 2 hits. So here, I'll show you. So we rolled a 9, and a 9 on here is just 1 hit. But if we get to add 5 more to that 9 and get to 12 or more, it's 2 hits. They obviously get to subtract 2, but it's still more than enough to get to 2 hits. So 2 hits here would cause this one to flip and this one to be eliminated. That's the archery phase. So now we go to the combat phase, which is the melee. And yes, I'm going to just go ahead and roll real quick. I rolled a 10, for example. That would be for the attacker. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units, and already I got to back up. I'm only able to bring 3 with me to this battle because it's a mountain terrain. So I'm going to leave these units all behind. I can't take them with me. And so what they will do instead is they're going to go ahead and attack here. Okay? So my last roll was a 9, and this would be 10, 11, 12, minus 2, which is 11, 10. And a 10 is 1 hit only. So this unit would stay alive, and we would just flip that elite unit over. Okay? That's how this battle would play out. Because remember, stacking limit is only 3 in mountains. Okay, so now I rolled a 10, and at 3 units, a 10 is a really good roll. We're doing 2 hits. But let's do our adds and minuses. So we did go across a ridge, so that 10 becomes a 9. None of these apply. We have cavalry advantage, so that 9 becomes a 10 again. This doesn't apply. And the 10 becomes a 9 because the opponent does have heavy advantage. So that 10 becomes a 9, but it's still 2 hits. So we would do 2 hits, which really would eliminate them completely. But now let's roll for them. They rolled a 7. They get to add 1 because of fortified city, so it would be 8. That's it. So they would have an 8. They had 2 units, they rolled an 8, there was 1 hit on these guys. So we would say that unit got eliminated, right? And so in doing so, obviously everybody recovers 2 units at the end of the battle. So these guys would recover. This one would not flip to the elite side. It would recover like that. And this guy would recover as well. But yellow eliminated 2 units. They eliminated 1. So we got to take care of the points. So 2 points for yellow. Those are the first 2 points for them on the board. And then 1 point for the Armenians is another point for red. So red is going to have to submit if these guys can successfully siege. Now that's where this is going to get challenging because they're going to try to siege with 3 units. And since this is a barbarian unit, they could choose to eliminate this one and then this one to get the advantage to their die roll. So I think they're going to do that. They're going to go ahead and eliminate a unit each. And this one will go back to the Iberians here. Just give me a second. So it goes back to the Iberians there. And so yes, he's going to get an advantage. There's only going to be 1 roll. However, because there's a campaign on the leader, he gets to have additional rolls as long as the leader, for every turn the leader campaigns. Anyways, that's, I'm going to get a phone call very soon, and I'm recording with my phone device. So I do have to stop here real quick. I will be back in a few minutes, and we will continue this. We're going to resolve the siege for this particular battle. Thank you for watching. Stay awesome.